Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Everybody Has a Podcast. And today I am joined by Tami Sharp. She is a law enforcement coach, and we're going to talk about that today. But she has probably the most interesting podcast name I've heard so far in my podcast career, the Blah, Blah, Blah Something Wellness Podcast. Welcome to the show, Tami Sharp. Hi, Tami.
Thank you for having me. And yes, the blah, 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 something wellness podcast, because we work with cops and those that are in the wellness space are in the wellness space and we could talk about it all day. And the ones that kind of need to tune in are like, blah, blah, blah. So we're talking to those.
How did you honestly come up with that name?
It was a culmination. So Chris and I were trying, racking our brains. What are we gonna call it? Everything's been done. Code everything. Blue this. It's all done. And we're like, how do we stand out? And he was talking, and I actually Seinfelded him. I was like, yada yada yada. And then he went blah blah blah. He's like, that's what it should be. And we're like, blah blah. That's what it should be. And it just stuck.
That's funny. That's sometimes that's how like the most creative or the most like stand out like over the long term things happen is just they're in a moment and they happen and it just becomes like the thing.
Don't overthink it. So, I mean, I know we're going to get into this, but for whoever's listening that's in the podcast space, keep it simple. Don't overthink it.
Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see. That's it. Let's
Bye.
go. There's your golden nugget of the week, everybody. Right out the gate. I love it. But I actually want to talk specifically about, well, partly to set the stage. The context here is that we have some mutual friends that are in the law enforcement space. We have a law enforcement podcast that we run here called Fit PD, and Juan is a regular around here. And he's been an academy instructor for a long time. So for us, the law enforcement space has been something that has become very routine, and we've learned a lot about in the podcasting space as well. Mutual friend of ours, Mike Lawson, introduced me to you, and then you and I had a conversation. I learned that you're doing law enforcement coaching. So for everyone that's watching today, the podcast arena has a network effect to it, where you might be thinking you're on an island on your own, or you don't know if you will be on an island on your own. You won't be unless you choose to be. People start finding each other, they start connecting to each other, and then things like this happen where just mutual friends and mutual friends end up in conversations like this where Tami and I are here today, but with common denominator of law enforcement connectivity. So that being kind of our stage today, Tami, talk about why law enforcement, what is law enforcement coaching, first of all, for people who don't know what it is, and then how does that weave into the idea of doing a podcast around this whole topic?
Oh, that was like a little. See, I usually ask loaded questions. All right. So, first, law enforcement coaching. We have a couple moving parts to the company. We have a team of about 20 law enforcement professionals that we've trained to be coaches. And when I say that, it's kind of a hybrid version of life coaching, but it's culturally competent, culturally experienced law enforcement professionals that we basically are the middle ground between in-house peer support and then clinical therapy and everything else, where cops don't necessarily either want to talk to somebody or need to talk to somebody. We take a very proactive, preventative maintenance approach to wellness and the career. And we're just another sounding board and resource. We have in-person training, online training. We are getting ready to go do our second annual retreat. And then one of the things is the conversations that we're having, because like you said, it's all networking. And there's so many amazing, powerful conversations that are happening off of a camera. And I'm like, these conversations need to be had, but more importantly, they need to be heard. And we need to put that out there. So with the podcast, what also, because we're coaching and we're listening, we're holding space for people that can't necessarily have a voice for themselves because they don't want to jeopardize their career, but they need to vent, right? And so I can kind of be the mouthpiece, and I'm uncensored and unfiltered, and I don't care. I'm not a cop, so you can't fire me. And if you don't want to listen to my podcast, bye. I don't care
Go find another one.
what needs to be said. And we have an explicit rating because of me. My bad. I cuss a lot. Uh,
Well, no, that's good because this is commonly, and I've learned this over the course of doing the show Fit PD, is like there's commonly been this, we don't talk about these things for decades. We don't talk about this, bury it, keep going on, and ignoring any wellness part of the career that would be needed in order to actually have a life that isn't just being demolished by seeing the dark side of humanity and your city all the time, every single day, every time you're on the shift. So even the whole change, and I'm noticing this brand new. The what I've learned about the change and the shaping of even talking about law enforcement issues is a relatively new concept.
Oh yeah. So my dad was a cop. My dad was an outpost deputy sheriff, old school, old school. He didn't, I mean, it wasn't that they didn't talk, it's a different way. So back in the day, they would, they'd go to lunch and they talk about the calls and stuff at the table. But I don't necessarily know that cops are doing that. And like you had said with the podcast, sometimes you feel like you're on an island. And in the communities, they'll talk about certain calls, but they're not going to confess or admit, hey, I had a close call, or I had a call that shouldn't have impacted me at all. And I'm feeling away. And the biggest thing is they don't know why they're feeling it or what exactly they're feeling. And so they really get quiet and isolate. So we're trying to, we're just one more resource. We connect with a lot of people. We bring as much to the table as we can. The way that we do our podcast is a little bit different than others. So every month we focus on a dedicated topic, and then each week we have different guests come on in a roundtable and we just talk about that topic. And I have it like written behind what's in it for them. So my aim with the podcast is 90% what's in it for the audience, 10% of our story and our what we know. So we provide as much useful, real world, applicable insights and guidance on all of these different topics. We started it's been 1 year this month that we've been doing the podcast. We started with prioritizing self-care, and we've hit so many from leadership, money mindset, retirement realities. Like we've hit so many topics and amazing guests.
So, what are some of the benefits that have been from doing this kind of group format roundtable approach? What have you noticed that is working really well with that? Because even like you and I are doing right now, it's like it's one on one. We're having a conversation between the two of us. There's not anyone else in the room feeding us things and talking points to talk about. What have you noticed has been a value add or a benefit of doing it in that kind of format?
Well, when we very first started, I didn't know what to expect. And if you go back and watch, I already kind of talk spastic. I'm like, squirrel, chicken. Okay. And so in the beginning, I was very nervous, and I'd bring it home eventually. But we had an episode with the chief where he was just taking notes the whole time. And I was like, okay. And that kind of kicked it off of like, these are basically free mini master classes. You are getting a wealth of insight and knowledge from everybody for good and bad, like what didn't work in an agency or in somebody's life, or why the divorce statistics are so high, why people are retiring and have to go work 3 more jobs after they've spent 30 years doing a career. Like we talk about all that. And so the podcast episodes, other people started taking notes. I started taking notes, and we're all learning from each other. And the thing is, for the audience, I always break the third wall. I always talk to the audience. I'm like, okay, hey, here's a teachable moment. This is something that you could do real time. And as much as I would love, my ego would be like, oh, somebody listens to us and they transform their life because they took all of our advice. The reality is maybe there's one unicorn that's like, I'm going to actually follow this and transform my life. The reality is it's the one off cuff little statement that somebody says in passing that's going to resonate. And if somebody takes away anything, one piece from these, it's a little bit better for their life and for moving humanity forward.
I'm really glad you said that because oftentimes some of them that I've noticed the most impactful things that are said on shows aren't prepared statements. It's the things that are happening in a real conversation or it's coming from a real place of experience and it's being offered as an illustration or as a nugget of wisdom that maybe they had picked up along the way from somebody else too, and then here they are, kind of passing that forward, paying it forward, if you will, from a discernment place or a place of experience to help someone else who might be listening. And it might only be that one person. We had a guest on recently who he literally said, I don't care if it's one person or it's 10,000. Whoever needs to hear the message is who I need to hear it. Volume notwithstanding. And I was like, that's such a great way to put it because, again, I don't know if 5 people are going to watch this show or 5,000. I don't care as long as the right person is watching it. The person who might need what you're talking about and the people who on the professional side might need what we're talking about. I'm hoping that people will continue to find themselves capable in this space, competent in this space, because they already know their thing so well. And what I'm trying to help them see is you can know your thing really well and also do it in this format too. by being invited to roundtables, if it's a roundtable discussion or a group Zoom and a group podcast, or if it's a one-on-one. The goal is not to pigeonhole people or corner them and make them feel flat-footed and on their heels, but to allow them to like step up and then share their wisdom and their value of their life and experiences to help others that might be listening.
One of the best pieces of advice I got in the beginning of my career, well, there's two pieces. And I live by this philosophy. Same thing. I don't care if there is one or 100,000. And if you're, for anybody that's listening that is trying to step into the podcast or public speaking space, so many people are chasing following. We have a small following right now, and that will grow eventually, but we have a small following, and I don't care because the following I do have, they're not bots. They're our actual, I can message every single one and be, hey, and actually connect with them. So it's not about these big numbers. Yes, if you're going to do the social media game, there's money in the big numbers, but that's not what we're about. We're like, hey, what's the impact? So whenever I step into any space where I'm speaking or teaching, I know there's one person in that room that needs to hear what I have to say. When Chris and I co-teach, we do that for a couple different reasons. One, I can say the exact same thing as Chris verbatim, and half the room will resonate and hear him, half the room will resonate and hear me, and some people miss the message altogether. But you have to trust that your people will find you. So again, whoever's, getting into the podcast space, you also need to know your fans and followers are going to be people that are either like you already or want to be like you. So don't change who you are. Be authentic, be yourself. For me, again, when I started the podcast and I was like, oh my God, you go back and you watch yourself and we're our own worst critic. That's what I sound like. That's what my face does. Oh gosh, drive it. And I'll sit there and watch myself and be like, drive it home, Tami. What's the point? I don't know what you just said. And then there was one podcast where I finally stepped into my confidence. I'm like, guess what? This is me. And if you don't like it, then listen to everybody else and don't listen to me. Watch another podcast. I don't care. But I know that there are people that talk and think like I do, and they do resonate. And then the last little thing, sorry, one more little tidbit, the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule, when you're speaking, so many people will chase the 80% of the people that leave the room, that leave the podcast, that aren't paying attention. They'll try to convert them, and they ignore the couple people that are super fans that get it. Lean into those and don't give a shit about the rest of the big numbers.
That's super helpful. And I like what you said about we're our own worst critic, because I've had to often remind people, depending on my relationship with them, delicately or very firmly, remind them that the level of scrutiny they apply to watching themselves is not the same level of scrutiny that they apply to someone else. They are not as judgmental when they watch someone else's show. Like, are you really picking apart that guy's haircut today? Are you really looking at her chipped nails or whatever? Like, no, you're not. But they're looking at themselves through this like very scrutinous, narrow, judgmental frame. And I'm like, look, I bet money that you're not watching social media with that same level of judgment, and they aren't.
And if they are, that's something to tune in for, because there's been times where I'll watch somebody and I get like, oh, why are they like that? Da da da. And then but here's the thing, self-awareness. I ask myself, why am I having a negative response to this person? They're saying the right things, they're doing the right things, and I have an issue. Is it possible that I'm jealous? Is it possible that I want to be like that? And I don't feel like I'm there. And so they're staying, I'm like, I'm capable of doing that. So some people use that to downplay themselves and just be jerks and be like, well, and crab in a bucket mentality where they try to bring everybody down to their level. I'm not that person. If I ever have a weird feeling where I feel some jealousy, I'm like, oh, I need to explore that. I want to do that. Why I have a podcast. I want to do a podcast. I want to be on stage. I like that. So I do it. And then I practice and I get better at doing it.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that, because that's a really good lesson, and a really good lesson, or a good reminder too, of having self-awareness in the moment of why am I actually feeling this way. If you do happen to feel that way, like, and even about yourself, like, yes, about somebody else, why am I feeling that way? Is it jealousy? Is it envy? Okay, what am I going to do about that? How am I going to process, work, do that? But also, like, why do I feel that way about myself? And for the most part, I try to encourage people to just show up the way they are and be the way they are, that someone's going to meet them in person. If you have to change too many things about you to come in this space and do this, then I'd actually prefer you don't do it. You're going to do yourself a disservice, do your followers a disservice. We need you to be you. We need you to be likable, credible, trustworthy, communicative, clear, understood, all those things. And if you are having to like put a mask on or try to act in a certain way in this space, it's probably not going to go that well for you. And when you're talking to people who, for a living, are doing a lot of serious matters and serious encounters and really heavy subjects sometimes, they're especially not going to want to watch you perform. They don't want that. They don't need that.
Well, and so many people do perform from a place of ego. And one of the biggest things that is my pet peeve, nobody cares about your big words. They don't understand your big words. Like you get in neuroplasticity and all of these different things. And it's like, nope, you gotta speak. And I'm not insulting the audience, but you gotta dumb it down. They don't know what you like. I've lost people from the simplest things where we were talking about cultural competence. And finally, somebody was like, I don't know what you mean when you say cultural competence. That's just a common term for us. And I was like, oh, and it's not a judgment thing. It's not that they're dumb or anything. It's just like, oh, we missed each other for a second. And so often we miss each other. Chris and I just missed each other last night because I came out talking about wanting to replace the bathtub drain because it's dripping and it's driving me nuts. He thought that we were talking about a business thing, and he's just like, ah, and I'm like, he gets all like jumped at me for a second. I was like, what do you think I'm talking about? I'm talking about the bathtub. So it's so simple to miss each other. And I think a lot of podcast hosts and a lot of speakers and teachers miss their audience because they are trying to, like you said, they're trying to be something. And the best thing that you can do with an audience to connect is just admit you don't know. You don't have all the answers. Stutter and stumble on your words. Be like, oh, the humanness, especially with AI advancing more and more. I utilize AI. I study it. I'm probably at an intermediate to advanced level with AI these days, and I'm already bored with it. It's great to help in some regards, but there's no soul. So we need the human connection. And for whoever, again, is thinking, if you're hesitating or thinking about getting onto a podcast, the world needs your message. But again, your world needs your message in a manner of not just talking about yourself. What is in it for the audience? How are they going to get some benefit from however you show up?
So, can you talk to me a little bit about specifically with your show? Like, how are you guys measuring success, and what is working well for you today?
That's a great question. I don't measure success by the following at all. I do measure success by when I talk to somebody, like I have repeat guests, or I talk to them, down the line, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? After the podcast, I went and I celebrated my wins, or I put in an action step, or I read that book." That to me is success. I don't know what the audience is taking away from it. I'm trusting and hoping that there are people that are taking something away from it. I don't have confirmation. So I could be yelling into the void and nobody may ever listen to the podcast. And the reality is a lot of people are not, we have about an hour ish of a show. Some of the episodes are about 2 hours because we just get so into it. I'm like, you know what? Most people are not going to watch the whole thing. The right people will. That's what matters. And they're going to take that message away. We're in a land of shorts and reels and little tiny 2-minute tidbits, and we do that as well. And people will take something away from that. But there's so much in the actual full scope of it. So for me, I focus on the people that were on that episode. Did I help make their life a little bit better?
That's really good. I really like that. So what would you say as far as like the show and what your structure is? What's working really well for you guys in the format that you've chosen to stick with?
My rent. Well, eventually I will hire somebody to edit and do that. I am doing all of the editing. So that is working well because I am fully immersed in it. Um, and I'm going to evolve eventually. But what is working well is just the caliber of guests and the word of mouth connections and the people that we're meeting, just like this, like what you're saying when you queued it up. You know, to add to that, Lawson introduced us. You and I talked. You introduced me to Juan. I talked to Juan. I introduced Juan to the National Police Podcast Network. That's life. And what people don't understand, everybody's chasing the almighty dollar. But if you have an abundance mindset, what we just did and what I just said, that is worth far more in value than a check. So I don't know if that really answered that. What's working well is that we're just doing it. We're showing up and we're doing it. That's what's working.
I like that it's consistent. So I noticed that from the sidelines. Your show is very consistent. You have a format that's working for you at the roundtables. You're not chasing the money and you're not chasing the followers. I would say those are all accolades for your show and your structure, because it is easy to look for something like this to replace some other part of your financial life or some other part of your business life. But what I'm finding for most people is that now this is like not a replacement of something else, it's like an addition to it. But then what you can extrapolate helps you reshare your message beyond your availability. If you just get this conversation from Andy when we're on the phone, and you happen to call me and I can talk to you about and say these same things, that's a call. But if I'm saying these things routinely and it's on camera, it's on shows, you can access this information from me whenever you get it and wherever you're getting it from. So I also appreciate that, again, you're doing this in a space that's for people who some of these topics were only talked about at the lunch table, and it wasn't publicized about police wellness and mental wellness, and even on one side, physical fitness and defensive tactics and preparation for being on shift and working on with the civilian population. So I commend you guys for being so consistent and sticking with it for a whole year. Most people don't make it past episode 10, if they make it to 10.
Yes, I have a bunch to unpack on that. So yes, consistency 100%. I'm going to come back into that. You had also just said something, and now of course it went out because I was like, oh, that's so good. And then poof, gone. So the consistency part, and the evolution. So when we very first started, we've actually been doing it for 2 years. But the first evolution was just weekly roundtables by law enforcement coaching. And so it was the same format, different branding, no branding. Just we're talking. And that was the other thing, is the conversations were so good. I was like, oh, I need to actually take this serious. Because I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't meaning to become a podcaster. So we were having these conversations because, oh, I brought it back. Okay. Anything that you are repeating, if you are talking to people in natural conversations, you are teaching, if you're repeating the lessons, it needs to be recorded. Work smarter, not harder. Don't repeat yourself all the time. Send them the clip so that you can talk about something else. Also know, as much the high performers and high achievers, we love to shove knowledge. We read all the books and we do the stuff. And there's a part of us that's almost like we need to keep constantly putting this information in because heaven forbid somebody asks a question and we don't know the answer. That's the imposter syndrome and the self-esteem. The reality is, if somebody asks me a question, like I already said, I don't know. Let's explore it. And now we have, devices that in real time we can figure that out. Allow yourself to have that space. The consistency and the evolution. So we started as the weekly roundtables. When I decided to actually turn it into a real podcast, I did not just do it alone. I sought out, I have a friend that's their company, Evolved Podcasting. I will give them a shout out. They teach people how to podcast, because the reality is, this is okay to our baby podcasters that are getting started. You're putting all of your heart and value and you're figuring it out and you're doing your branding and you're coloring your message and everything's perfect. And you put it out there and you get, maybe your mom watches it. And you're like, crickets.
Like I said, maybe your mom, like she's not a shoe-in.
My mom didn't even watch mine. She's not even watching it. I was like, Mom, did you see it? She's like, I don't care. But you're not going to start a podcast and go viral immediately and start making money. So like you said, people don't usually make it past about 10 episodes because consistency is absolutely key. And you have to earn your street cred, and you have to also play the algorithm game. The algorithm game is huge and it changes. So as soon as you figure it out on one platform, they're like, no.
Yeah. Switch it up on you right away. You figure it out and you switch it up. It's like parenting.
Yeah.
You figure out a season of life. You're like, oh, now there's changing happening. Well, you brought up imposter syndrome. What would you say to somebody who's kind of feeling that way? I mean, first, I guess, have you felt imposter syndrome at all? And then what would you tell someone who is maybe feeling that way but isn't vocalizing it?
So imposter syndrome, everybody. Here's the thing. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and Reiki master, and I do full spectrum woo-woo stuff. And with the subconscious mind, humans, every human, I don't care who you are, everybody has limiting beliefs that we're not good enough or we're not lovable. And that sits there. Some people are a little bit more vocal about it. Other people just have that and they're quiet and they come off with the confidence. They really have to amp themselves up. And for me with that is anytime I get into a space where I'm like, who am I to do this? My immediate response is, who am I not to? Because there are a lot of people that have no business being in whatever space they are in, and yet they're doing it. So if they can do it, who am I not to? Right? And we all have our own unique ability, gifts, lessons. And again, just like I said, Chris and I can talk. Whoever it is that's talking, somebody needs to hear you. And again, you're not trying to get everybody. It's just the right people. And life, and that is a really big thing too. When you surround yourself by tons of people, you get tons of chaos and drama that comes from them. And you get people that want your energy. And there's things that are called energy vampires that you feel drained when you're done. So it's not about how many, it's about surrounding yourself by the right people that when you get out of a conversation, like this conversation, I'm amped up. I'm like, this is a great conversation. I like your energy. I'm not going to get off. And as soon as we hit record, I'll be like, oh, and walk away. That happens too. Part of it. But you want to surround yourself with the people that feel good. And that, you know, my other thing too, for the imposter syndrome, the simplest way of saying this, and it might be a little bit harsh, but somebody might need to hear it, get over yourself. Just truly get over yourself. And also know we're in this human form. No matter where you look in the universe, whether you're an identical twin, you're in a parallel dimension, whatever you believe in, timelines and all of this stuff, we can go really, aliens and whatnot. Whatever form, there is nobody else that is exactly like you. Even if it were you in a past life, still not you. So in all of this, I always say this, I'm like, nobody, if you're gonna suck at life, nobody else can suck the way that you do. So own it. Like like nobody else has these unique abilities that you have. So why would you not just, and who gives a shit? The other thing, if people are judging you, it's because they can't do it. They're not doing it. They have so much of an imposter syndrome that they would rather poo poo on somebody else than just step up. So just do it. Who
I
cares?
love I love it. You're basically summarizing is no one can suck as much as you can, as much as you can.
Right. So just
I
own
love
it.
it. I've never heard anybody say it that way, but that's really funny. Well, I want to give you a chance too to talk about how podcasting has made you better. What has adopting a podcast as part of your infrastructure? How has this helped you personally and professionally? Do you notice things that have changed for the better? Are you better at communicating? Do you feel more confident regularly? Do you feel like you're able to handle objections better? Like, what are some of the value adds that have happened because you've gone on this adventure?
Ooh, so good. Yes. So one of the things for me is, and I give myself credit, and without, I don't know, humble brag, I guess. So when I do my episodes, I never pre-plan anything. Some people really need to have like a checkbox thing. I don't. I trust that the conversation's going to go where it needs to go. And so I bend like bamboo. I'm like, okay, whatever comes up, I'm going to ask the right questions. It's a real conversation. There is no agenda. I have no idea where the conversation goes. And sometimes it goes off the rails, which is fine. Um, but with that, the caliber of people that I've had, the conversations that we've had, just for my own confidence, I watched them and I was like, oh, like I'm not dumb. Like I actually am pretty smart. Like I'm able to adapt and ask these questions and connect with all of these different personalities and different kinds of people and just sit in that space with it. And so for me, it's been, I'm a better host and a moderator. And then I also know one of the big things that I've been complimented on is I make sure that everybody's getting a turn. Some people like to talk way more and others are a little bit more quiet, and I will make sure that everybody's having a voice on my show. So, yeah, I mean, it's made me better, the consistency too. Professionalism, consistency, the connecting, discernment. So there are some people are not the right fit and saying no and having boundaries of like, thank you for your interest. I am not interested. And one of the things I'm actually going to be launching at some point when I have the time, not this summer because I'm going to travel in the in the fall at some point. Now, for my podcast right now, I don't charge anybody to be on it. It's not a pay to play. It is organic. We are mission centered, and that is what we're doing. I am getting more and more people that want to come and do my podcast and talk about their product and have a fluff piece on them. And I'm like, you know what? I'd be happy to do that for you. However, you are going to pay to play, and it's going to have a hefty price tag because my time is valuable. So I will be launching I don't know exactly what it is, talk with Tami or something. And it's going to have a good price tag that if you want to come and talk about yourself and promote yourself, let's do it and I'll support that, but I am going to get paid for my time.
I'm going to toss out a name. I think it should be called Staying Sharp.
Ooh, that's
I
not
don't know if
bad.
that's any good or not. Staying Sharp with Tami. That's your promo show.
I like it. Oh, that's good. Okay.
Well, I mean, somehow we ended up with the blah 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 something wellness show. So,
Well, and that's the
the
thing is,
blah blah blah. Your product is okay show.
well, and it's funny because when people are talking, they naturally are like, "Oh, blah blah blah." Oh, I get it. I get it. Because it's just, Chris and I are very snarky. Like behind the scenes, all we do, our relationship is just basically us roasting each other all day, every day.
I love it.
So,
I love it. I love that. So that's my best friendships and my funnest family moments is us just roasting each other lovingly, which they do go together. I have two last questions I want to ask you, and someone I've tried to learn from is Larry King, who had interviewed all these influential, famous people forever, and he got to be a very good interviewer. I read a couple books about him, and he always had these kind of questions he'd ask people, and I have two that I like asking at the end, so I want to ask you those today. The first one is, dead or alive, who would you want to share a meal with?
oh, my dad. That's easy. I don't care about celebrities. My dad. Um, oh, you're gonna get you. Oh, you got me. Oh, see, now you're pulling like a Barbara Walters, getting me cry. No, no. My dad passed away when I was 18. He's been very, very much with me with spirit. Talk to him all the time. There's no way that I would be doing what I'm doing if it were not for his spiritual presence and guidance. There have been so many coincidences where it's like, okay, he and others. We have a spirit team. Chris and I both. We have so many law enforcement specific people that are in spirit, but just others that are guiding this. But yeah, I would love to sit down with my dad and just be like, hey, like, I know he's proud of me, but yeah, that would be that.
Well, the other one is, if I was able to hand you a microphone in a stadium full of 100,000 people and you could thank somebody, who would you thank and what would you say?
Oh, good one. And you just had I don't know if that was cat hair or a spirit, but you just had a little orb happen on your thing. You're gonna have to go back to the replay for that. Who would I think? Well,
There's probably a lot of people you could, and so and don't want to exclude anybody, but if there's someone who's on your heart that you would want to say thank you to today, who would that be?
oh man. There's a couple things that came in. My younger self, and that's not being egotistical, just my younger self, because I went through a lot. I went through a lot of pain and tears and turmoil to get to where I'm at today, and I'm so thankful that I went through all of that. I'm thankful for my team. They have stuck by us for almost 5 years now of all sorts of business upheaval, and they've watched me go from, hippie woo woo Tammy of like, hey, let's talk about essential oils and tuning forks to I'm a CEO of a company that's working with law enforcement. I know how to write grants. I know how to talk to cops. I know how to connect with cops. We are also launching duty driven contracting, which is wellness strategies and training for high performers and purpose driven professionals because they've naturally gravitated to what we do. And the team has been steadfast in the mission. So I
Mm.
think just my whole team and Chris and my daughter and everybody. I'm thankful for everybody. I'm thankful for you.
It'll be your one list of thanks.
I'd be getting pulled off the stage. Be like, okay, you're done.
And the second to lastly, for the 30th time, I know you're about to go and lead your own mission next, so we're going to sign off for now. But I want to thank you so much for coming to share about your podcast and your podcast experience, share nuggets of wisdom and knowledge from a track record of having experience and figuring stuff out, and also paving your own way and carving your own path. I really, really admire that, and I respect what you're doing. And I'm still learning a lot about the podcast space in and around law enforcement and all the things that entails. And it's given me such great insight to a lot more than just the things you hear in snippets or sound bites or news pieces about law enforcement. And so I have a great respect for what is being done inside law enforcement and also around law enforcement to help them all do better in their life on the clock and off the clock. So, Tami, thank you so much for doing that as well. And thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you. And just, I'm going to plant the seed that in the fall, I don't know exactly which month or when I'm recording, but we are going to do a month that is focused on AI, podcasting, business, and social media within law enforcement. So when we do the podcasting one, I'll have you be on my podcast.
I love it. Let's do it. Mark me down as a yes to help and support and bring any wisdom that I can to help you and your folks. Tami, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you all for watching. Everybody Has a Podcast. Man, doesn't it just seem like everybody has a podcast these days? And if you don't, you can find us online or find someone in your area that does podcasting that can help you do it at the level and the grade at which you want to share your very important life message and your own personal wisdom and discernment with others. Thank you so much for your time once again. Tami Sharp with the Blah, Blah, Blah Something Wellness podcast. You can find it on YouTube and also on social media. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you all with another great guest next week.